The Traveller by Thea Hughes. Part 1. He wasn't a young man anymore, but he didn't think of himself as old. He had turned 60 and still felt vigorous and interested in life. So when he was offered the opportunity of traveling through Africa for a few months, he decided to go. The prospect excited him. The other 3 people in the party were New Zealanders, and he felt sure he had been included because he was a South African. Not African exactly, but South African, which meant he would have a better understanding of how Africans thought. It made him feel important and useful, feelings he hadn't had for many years, at least not since his wife had divorced him several years ago. Life on his small farm had been dull and repetitive since then, and he liked the idea of something new. "I'm going to do something different for a while," he told his neighbors on the farm next door as he put shutters on his windows. "I'm going to become a traveler." A traveler! It was an exotic thought. A thrill of expectation surged each time he said the words. He had been told he could take a single backpack and a tent with him, as the vehicle was small and weight was a consideration. Choosing what clothes to take wasn't difficult. He took all his short-sleeved shirts out of his cupboard and spread them onto his bed, leaving his 2 long-sleeved formal shirts hanging forlornly behind. "Africa's hot," he said to himself, as he folded and packed his shirts, 10 altogether. By the time his shorts, underpants and socks were packed, his backpack was full. He placed his jacket and his wallet on top of his pack and small one-man tent. Tomorrow he would fly to Nairobi, where he would meet his 3 New Zealand fellow travelers. The first thing that caught his eye as he walked into the Nairobi airport was a large shop with a neon sign flashing red and purple and yellow in rapid succession. It read, "Safari Treasures." As he had an hour or 2 before his rendezvous with his traveling companions, he gave in to his curiosity and entered the shop, which beckoned feverishly. He was immediately attracted by a wooden carving of an African family, consisting of a solemn-looking father and mother and 5 equally mournful-looking children of various ages and stilted poses. It was carved out of African mahogany, and the deep brown wood pulsed with a tinge of red, then purple, then yellow. It seemed to the brand-new traveler that the little family cluster was imbued with life. With each changing hue, their sad eyes seemed to implore him, "Buy me, buy me, buy me." "How much?" he inquired of the saleslady, a chic African woman with intricately plaited hair and a quick, bright smile. $200. It was more money than he had ever spent before, but the statue was compelling. He imagined it standing in the entrance hall of his farmhouse, a family to welcome him home in the evening, a family to fill the house with their quiet presence, and a family to say goodbye to when he left for his fields each morning. He paid the $200 to the still smiling woman. Africa was hot. It was also dusty. The unsealed roads were rutted and potholed, and in some places almost impassable, with large parts of the road gouged away by rains or landslides. And the dust, the reddish-brown, covered everything by the end of the day. Each night he took off his shirt, noting the dark stains, and rolling it into a tight ball, shoved it down into the dark recesses of his backpack. He would wash the African dust from his body and hair, and pull from his pack a fresh, clean, folded shirt. At home in his farmhouse, Aletta had always done his washing for him. Each morning she would pick up his pile of clothes from the floor of the bathroom, and they would end up clean and ironed on a hanger in his wardrobe, ready for him to wear again. By a mystical process, his drawers were always filled with fresh, clean socks and underpants and handkerchiefs. Each night when the traveling group stopped for the day, he placed his wooden family on his chosen patch of grass, and then pitched his tent so that his family stood like silent guards at the entrance. He then looked round for someone like Aletta to wash his clothes for him. He had seen the New Zealanders come out of their showers with bundles of wet clothes which they hung and dried, but still he was certain that a suitable washer person would appear. On the 9th day of the trip, the car stopped at Nyungwe Forest in Rwanda. A short distance from the campsite were the black and white colobus monkeys, and only a day's drive away were the silver-backed gorillas of Diana Fossey fame. In the next few days, the group would be taken on guided walks to see these animals. As the day ended and the magnificent African sunset seared the sky with blood-red streaks, the ebony-colored Rwandan park ranger strolled down the hill to the campsite to consult the travelers about their plans for the next morning. "Bonsoir," he began, speaking the language of the previous colonial power. "Hello," sang the collective answer. None could speak or understand French. Hope jumped in the farmer's heart. A letter in another guise? A washerman, perchance, rather than a washerwoman. Would his prayer be answered? The ranger was talking again. He had noticed the mute family on the grass beside the tent. He was saying something in French and at the same time rubbing his fingers together in a universal gesture. "How much?" he was asking. "How much did you pay for this?" $200, the white man replied earnestly, proud that his family had been noticed. $200. The ranger burst out laughing. The laughter bubbled up and out, and his face beamed with mirth. The farmer felt uncomfortable. For the first time since becoming a traveler, he felt unsure of himself. He bent down to his tent and grabbed a pile of dirty washing, the grubby mud stains visible to all. "Here," he said, pushing the bundle of clothes into the ranger's arms. "You wash, me pay." He made the same rubbing movements with the finger of his right hand as the ranger had to make sure his instruction was understood. They stood looking at one another for a long while, the dark Rwandan ranger and the white South African farmer. The ranger thought, "This is a disrespectful man. Does he not know that washing clothes is a woman's work? He is also a stupid man because he throws away much money buying a bad carving made from bad wood. A stupid, disrespectful man with pockets filled with money." The ranger gave a short, sharp nod and walked off with the clothes, thinking, $50, maybe 75. More than I earn in 1 month, lots of really dirty clothes. If he is so stupid, perhaps even $100. That night, as the campers cooked and ate their dinner, the ranger found a bucket, warmed water on a fire, and squatting on a flat section next door to the camp, began the task of soaping, rubbing, rinsing and wringing the washing until all the dirt and grime of the African roads had been removed. He strung a line across the tents, and under the watchful eye of the white man with bulging pockets, carefully hung all the washing out to dry. He found a forked stick, and securing the fork under the line, hoisted it high off the ground. He put away the bucket and soap and pegs, and pulled down the long sleeves of his ranger's uniform, meticulously buttoning each sleeve. "Bonsoir," he said again to the traveler, who was sitting next to his family. "Fini," he said, indicating the washing hanging on the makeshift line. The white man got up, and without a word, fumbled in his pocket and brought out a large wad of notes. From the wad he extricated a single dollar bill. "Thank you," he said. "I have nothing smaller. You can keep the change." It was just before dawn when the ranger walked quickly toward the campsite. Behind him, on a rope, walked 10 young goats. Without a sound, he unhitched the forked stick from the line, leaving the bone-dry laundry hanging inches from the ground. He bent down and dexterously unleashed the goats into the campsite and silently walked away. The solemn eyes of the family standing outside the tent watched as the goats pulled and nibbled and demolished the washing, leaving at the end of their meal 2 pink pegs and a lonely pair of underpants.